So test your technology. Now, I don't want to make any assumptions just because this is a teens to 20 something crowd that you all know technology, because yeah, we're all on Zoom and we've managed this, but they don't always use Zoom. They sometimes use Microsoft Teams, they sometimes use Skype, and often, typically, they will go well every single time, but the minute you have an interview, the tech decides to mess up. So test the technology in your interview confirmation. If it's a virtual interview, you will be, or you should be, and if you haven't been informed, just ask them and just say, I haven't been told how this interview is going to happen. Could you give me information as to what to expect? And test the technology. Make sure you have your logins set up and ready to go. Make sure you have an account that's professional and suitable, generally first name, last name, and set up an email address if you don't have that. But test your technology and make sure everything is ready. Prepare your environment. So a lot of people ask me, does it matter if I'm in a messy room, in a room with stuff in the background? Does it have to be a blank screen? My advice is that it helps to have no distractions. So I definitely recommend that you don't have your, you don't sit with your back to a window, because you have no idea what could happen outside and you've got no control over that. Close the windows as well. And I know this is a difficult one because you might get quite hot in an interview because of the excitement and the nerves, but you just never know when there's going to be drilling, or someone's going to start doing the lawn, or the dog's going to start going berserk or something. So try and create a quiet environment. Inform the people that you live with and say to them, I just wanted you to know I have an interview tomorrow, and it would mean a lot to me if you can try and be quiet for 1 hour. I'll let you know when I'm about to start, and as soon as I'm finished, I'll come and update you. But please respect that I would like to take this seriously, and I'd really appreciate some privacy and no distractions and no disruptions. It may seem quite forthcoming to say that, but people will respect you if you set up boundaries. And if it simply isn't possible, then try and get some headphones and make sure that you know how to set them up quickly and that they can be set up really easily, so that you have as minimal distractions as possible. If something happens in the interview and you get distracted anyway, your little sister runs in, the dog goes crazy, the postman arrives, whatever, simply say, I'm so sorry for the disruption. Please bear with me for 1 minute. I will be right back. Switch off your camera, mute yourself, and quickly deal with it. Come back, take a breath, and present yourself. Thank you so much for your patience. I wasn't expecting that disruption. Let's please continue. And it is as simple as that. Remember, people will only feel flustered and distracted if you allow them to. You take control of that situation. You deal with any disruptions. The same if you have a coughing fit. That's definitely happened. Trying to talk, have a sip of water, next thing you know, you're choking on it, and you just need to take a minute, mute, and just say 1 second, and take yourself aside away from the camera, and come back, deep breath, compose yourself, and then deliver. Dress for success again. And I would say, because you've probably seen all the memes where somebody's super dressed up and smart on the waist upwards, and then at the bottoms they're wearing like box or something. Just in case you do get any distractions and you do have to stand up and step away, make sure you're fully dressed. You don't have to have shoes on if you don't want to, but at least your trousers are suitable, so that if you did stand up for any reason, or you stood up to go and plug in your laptop because the battery was running out or something, then you're completely suitable for that interview. Use prompts if you have a virtual interview. Now, what I would say is eye contact is everything. Now, you can probably see that right now I'm looking at the screen because I'm actually reading off what is on the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing a second so that you can really see the power of what this looks like, because you've probably noticed it without thinking about it. You're going to be with camera on in an interview. I'm currently looking at the screen and I'm looking at all of your names. If I had notes and I was down here looking, reading my notes, you can see that, can't you? And over here, if I had notes on my other side, you can see that as well. So when you're speaking to the camera, you can either look into the actual camera itself, or you can just look at the screen in general. But I would say that body language is really key. Now, what I didn't notice, because I put my camera on late, is that you can't actually see much of my upper body. Now, what's quite good for an interview is that you can see probably just below the shoulders, because people talk with their hands and they communicate with their hands. And I'm doing it a little bit more exaggerated than I maybe normally would, but 2 reasons. It's because we're virtual, and I appreciate that something does get lost in communication when you're virtual. It just isn't the same, is it? So gestating with your hands helps show personality, it helps show commitment, passion, excitement, and it helps communicate the message. I have to say, I hate telling people to smile, especially women. I don't think anybody should be told to smile, but I'm going to say it for the purpose of this. In a virtual interview, and in fact, even in a real life interview, smiling shows interest and it shows a genuine connection. And the truth is that an interview is only ever about connecting. They're interviewing you because they have a vacancy, but they're hiring you because they like you and they feel that your qualifications and experience are going to be well suited to the role. If there was a situation where there were 2 candidates and their qualifications and experience were exactly the same, the next thing they're going to look for is that connection. And so you build a connection with eye contact, like you would in real life, and by warming to somebody's personality. Now, not everybody is for everybody. You might like vanilla, Bennett might like chocolate, Paul might like strawberry. So there's nothing wrong with not being somebody's flavor like that. There is nothing wrong with that. And we'll talk about rejection a little bit later on. But the key is that if you don't show your personality and smile and give that kind of communication across, both in a live interview and in a virtual interview, then you lose something in that communication and you miss out on the opportunity of building a connection with someone. And I have been in interviews where they have not chosen the person with the most experience, they've chosen the person that they connected to on a personal level because they wanted to work with that person and they could see them being part of the team. So don't underestimate that. I'm going to share my screen again. So we talked about body language. So I originally started to talk about prompts. So with a virtual interview, you can take prompts with you, but I would recommend that you have like a post-it size, maybe half an A4 page of keynotes that you have right next to the camera, so that if I look next to the camera like I'm doing right this second, you can't quite tell because it's just a tiny bit, as opposed to looking at notes or a notebook down here, because they'll see that. And have your phone on silent. So yeah, have your phone on silent or don't even have your phone available. The last thing you want is to be distracted by a notification or something. I would also say, actually, before I go on to that, in terms of preparing the day before an interview and the day of, I would say, I know that life happens, but hold off having any important or personal conversations that aren't going to support you in your interview. I broke up with a boy once, or actually we broke up with, I'll be honest, he broke up with me the day before an interview. I could have chosen to have that discussion 2 days after the interview. I got too in my head. I was like, no, I've done the prep, I'll be fine. We're going to have this discussion now. As you can imagine, I was an emotional wreck on the day of the interview. Not the time to have that discussion. So think about what's going on in your life. Not that much is going on right now with us all being in lockdown, but do bear these things in mind. You have every right to set up your own boundaries and protect what is yours. And what is yours is your career, your future, and your sense of self-care and your mental health. And if there is anything that might jeopardize that the day of or the day before, or even the week before an interview, when you're focused on your career and setting yourself up for your future, you have every permission to say, today is not the day to have that conversation. Let's talk about that after my interview. I'll give you a call then and you have my undivided attention. Okay, so interview confidence. Interview confidence is not letting self-doubt get in the way of letting your quality shine. What I mean by that is, if you have any self-doubts, that is you telling yourself stories that don't serve you. If the facts are, you have the qualifications to apply for that role, and actually ignore the qualifications, because it might not be the reason why you got the interview. You don't know the reason why you got the interview yet. It probably is because your CV was great. But self-doubt is simply a story you're telling yourself. How about this for a story? I could be great for this job. So anytime you have any negative thoughts that are not serving you, question yourself, is this thought helping me or hindering me? Because if you have an interview for a job, it's because they want to interview you. It's as simple as that. So don't let any self-doubt get in the way of letting your quality shine. If you've ever gone into an interview and thought, oh, they're not going to like me because I'm scared to talk about this, because if it matters to you and it matters to who you are and how you identify with yourself, then allow it to shine. Because remember what I said, in the absence of having anything extraordinary in the way of qualifications or skills, and it then comes down to personality, it's your qualities, it's you, the truth of you, not your CV, not your qualifications, it's you that are going to shine. And that's what people are going to warm towards. You have to back yourself, because if you don't back yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? It's preparing and putting in the work. You're more likely to have negative thoughts if you don't put the work in, because then you have a reason to have self-doubt. But if you've put some effort in, you've done the prep, and you put in the work, you can confidently go into that interview and say, not only have they chosen me for this interview, I have put in the work, and what if this goes well? How empowering is that thought? And I bet you would say it to your best friend. So say it to yourself when it really matters, okay? Because this matters. Believe you are good enough. You're good enough to be invited to the interview. You are good enough to get this job if the job is right for you. And that's a two-way thing. It's not only them selecting you, it's you selecting the job. An interview is a two-way process. So believe you are good enough, because any other thought probably isn't serving you. So as we look at this mindset piece, I wanted to identify a couple of thoughts that you likely will have that are not serving you. And we say about mindset comes up in two ways. Mindset is the way that your thoughts are serving you. They're either helping you or hindering you. Now, a fixed mindset is basically if your thoughts suggest that it cannot be changed. I'm no good at this is a statement. A growth mindset is, it's okay to be new at something. It's okay to be a learner. It's okay to start at step one, because we all had to start at step one at some stage. I give up. Now, when it comes to dealing with rejection or not getting a job and being rejected from an interview or not even getting an interview, sure, you can feel like giving up. The difference is taking I give up to I'm taking a break. I will come back to this. I'll come back to this later. There is nothing wrong with taking some self-care, nurturing yourself, giving yourself some love, doing something that feels good and making yourself feel nice again and coming back to it later. Failure is only failure when you give up. Up until then, it is simply telling you that it isn't right now. So I am a failure is the next one. I'm scared of failing. I am a failure. These thoughts, they're not going to serve you. If you can trust that anytime something doesn't go your way, it's either trying to teach you something and giving you an opportunity to grow, or it's telling you that there's something better for you. Every rejection is a redirection. And it might suck. I'm not telling you to not feel anything. Like, sometimes it will suck. Sometimes there will be rejections where you will feel gutted. But the difference is that the rejection was the rejection from the opportunity, not a rejection of your intrinsic self-worth. And that is essential. Your worth is absolutely obsolete. It is unwavering. You are worthy, no matter what outcome may come from a job search or anything that you do in life. You are absolutely worthy. But if something doesn't go your way, it's simply a reflection of the situation, not you. You might think they won't like me, or I'm not experienced enough, or some other variation. Why not? Why wouldn't they hire me? Try thinking that. Now, it's all very well saying these things, but the challenge is noticing when you say these things and catching yourself in the moment and challenging yourself to go, oh, that probably wasn't the most helpful thing. Let's try and change it to something empowering. That's all it takes. So remember, see that negative mindset as just a little devil on your shoulder challenging you. If you look for it, there is an angel on your shoulder who has got your back and is saying, ignore it. What if it goes well? What if I am good enough? What if this rejection means there's something better waiting for me? Now that feels good. And I can guarantee you'll probably say that to your best friend. Say it to yourself. So rejection then. Like I said just now, you have every right to feel emotions. I'm not saying you can't feel them or that you shouldn't feel them. Emotions are important to our biology. There's a reason we have them. It's because they're giving us feedback and they're telling us about the situation. So if you're feeling rejected, fair enough. But watch the dialogue that you're telling yourself. Change it to, I'm feeling rejected, but it means that I cared and I put my all in. If you're feeling angry, it's a really good prompt to challenge yourself. And I invite you to challenge yourself next time you're feeling angry. Where is that anger coming from? Have you had wrong done to you? And if so, feel the anger and let it pass. But I challenge you to go deeper and see, did you deserve better? And know why you deserve better and what that looks like. And could you have done better? It's a hard one to say, and I'll be honest, when I've been angry about interviews and in fact anything in life, the truth is that it's probably because I could have done better. And don't get me wrong, there's been situations where people have done me wrong and I will be angry, and fair enough, but then I won't hold on to it. It's about allowing that emotion to be, acknowledging it and letting it pass. Now, if you got rejected and you're surprised by that, it's an interesting one. It could be for two reasons. Were your expectations fairly managed? Sometimes they hype you up in the interview and then they ghost you and you're like, what the hell did I do? I thought it went well. Alternatively, did you self-reflect? So if you're really critical and you really review how you did you actually perform as well as you think you could have done? And what can you learn from that? With all of these, what can you learn from that? And this is the key. Rejection is not only redirection, but it's an opportunity to learn and reflect and get better for next time. Are you confused if you have been rejected from an interview? Maybe it means you need more feedback or more clarity. Now, the challenge with that is that you don't always get it from the interviewers or from the company that you've interviewed with. And that is why self-reflection is so powerful, because I can guarantee you will probably be 75% right, if not 100% right, about the reason why you didn't get a role if you do some self-reflecting. Sometimes it is totally out of your control and you have to accept that. But there is always room for self-reflection and figuring out where you could improve yourself. And if this rejection makes you feel determined, then good for you and you keep going. So your feelings are allowed, they are valid, but they do not define your worth. Feelings are transitionary. They come and they go. They're like clouds. But the beauty with clouds, even a day as grey as it has been today, is that above the clouds, it's always a blue sky. If you can remember that with any emotion, notice it, acknowledge it, learn from it, and apply it next time. And it's with those incremental improvements with every interview that will help you land the next job. And that's why job searching is such a transitionary period in people's lives. It's not just getting a new job, it's you probably leveling up. It's probably you going from a grad to somebody in their first role in their career. It's probably you going from your first job to your first manager role, and your first manager role to your first senior manager role. Every job search and every interview is a transition into your future self, and there's a lot of power to be had in that. And if you can embrace that learning experience as an opportunity to level yourself up in the process, then you will be very well prepared for the role and all the new challenges that are going to come with it.